Good evening. I'm Elise Giamacco Carlson, and welcome to our weekly, well, it's usually weekly, well, we try to make it weekly, Duo Daemonologie show. It's good to be back after a brief time off last week. I hope you all enjoyed the full moon, big full blue moon on Halloween. During the next hour, I'll be moderating our discussion forum and helping to bring you what you might wish to say to the attention of our demonology panel. We invite you to contribute relevant questions and comments through our message board. They'll respond to as many as they can. And our topic for tonight is, what is it like to deal with a demon? Duo Daemonologie has several upcoming engagements about which you'd like me to tell you. On Saturday, November 14th, they will be special guests at a Haunted Nights event, a night aboard the USS Wisconsin, which will be a floating paranormal investigation on that historic ship docked in Norfolk, Virginia. Tickets are $99 plus tax, and guess what? That comes out to $106.66. See what they did there? This is the first public event ever on that ship, so if you want to take a trip down there, it isn't overnight. You won't have to worry about finding a place to stay. It sounds like a good time. On Saturday, December 12th, the duo will guide investigations at not one, not two, but 3 historic sites, all centrally located in Winchendon, Massachusetts. The Isaac Morse House, the Murdoch Whitney House, and the First Congregational Church are all located close to each other. That series of investigations will start at 6 p.m. and continue till midnight. Tickets are available $60. Wouldn't that make a great Christmas present for someone you love? Give them an experience they'll never forget. The details can be found on our website, demonology.org. Don't forget, that's demonology.org. It's spelled the usual way. So, for tonight's program, when you hear the word demon, what comes to mind? A shadowy, menacing phantom? A fallen angel whose aim is to ensnare a human soul? Reagan in The Exorcist? Perhaps an xed-out relationship you'd rather forget? Well, to some they are reality and very much dreaded. There are persons, some quite credible, who claim to have encountered such an entity. One of them is with us here tonight as our very special guest panelist. Carl describes demonology as being the systematic study of the lore and cultural traditions of wicked spirits. The dictionary definition of a demon is an evil spirit or devil, thought to possess persons or act as a tormentor in hell. The late Ed and Lorraine Warren defined a demon as, and I quote, an evil presence that has never walked the earth in human form. That was a bad imitation. That's enough. We have as our guest tonight the much respected Nick Groff, who is featured in TV shows Ghost Adventures and Paranormal Lockdown. Television isn't all Nick does. He brings a wealth of experience to tonight's discussion. So tonight I'm going to introduce the duo, Carl L. Johnson and James Anito, and Nick Groff. And to start off our show, I will mention that Nick was recently at the Conjuring house on Friday night, and Carl was there on Saturday night. So I bet you guys have some notes to compare.
Thank you, Elise.
Thank you, Elise.
Nick, thank you for being on.
And to Elise, Clara Trader, Jay.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
It's good to see you, Nick. Yeah, I missed Nick at the Conjuring house, as Elise mentioned. You were on your way out. I was on my way in. So somebody has some nice aftershave. That was Nick. Oh.
Or the spirits. Who knows? One or the other.
Its aura remains, yeah. So we were that close to meeting each other that night. You know?
And last time I saw Nick was a year ago, Michigan Paracon, which was unfortunately was canceled this year due to COVID. But,
yes, COVID restrictions.
We spoke on a demonology panel together. It was Tim Shaw, Nick, myself, and John Zaffis. And Nick was a great replacement to Rose Marilyn Guiley, who we lost that year, unfortunately. Yes. And I think we would have made her proud that day. And that was a great panel, and everybody thoroughly enjoyed it. So that was the last time I seen Nick. But so, Nick, as Elise said, and we're going to get into this. I know you only have a short amount of time tonight, if I do remember correctly, with us. So there's a few topics that we want to discuss. Elise had brought up that one of them was, of course, you were at the Conjuring house this past week. I think you were there almost all week, were you not?
Yeah, I've been going there for a couple of times throughout the month, just preparing, digging a little bit deeper, trying to understand why some of the hauntings are occurring. But I mean, the main obstacle we were trying to figure out is what exactly is haunting this location. I don't think anyone truly knows, and I think that's the mystery behind, a location that's so iconic because of Hollywood films and because adaptations on, and the stories and everything that's been talked about. But I'm always curious with locations that are reported to be haunted, but there's no factual information dating back to, was someone that died here, or is this fact based on the hauntings and the experiences people are happening? So I think that was one of my kind of objectives to set out and try to discover something new, not the same old. And I'm always curious. I'm always curious about locations that offer so much of history. I mean, you're talking about a 300-year-old farmhouse, and the land alone dates back. I mean, man, it's ancient, ancient with the rock formation out back and just some of the land in general from the wars and everything else. Who knows what else has kind of walked through those lands back in the past that we don't have documentation on. So I don't know. It's just a really interesting journey that it's been. In going there, I kept discovering something new. I feel like there's some sort of secrets that we don't know about, something that happened there. And I think it was just pulling back those layers just a little bit to get to something new that we can say, okay, maybe this is pushing us in the right path now for this location. So it was very fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. I think, we definitely want to get possibly what some of your conclusion was. We have something that's usually not happening when we talk about, or when people talk about the Conjuring house. A lot of it's an outside source. You hear about it usually. You were just there for a long period of time. Elise is a president of a historical society in Rhode Island, which Harrisville is in. And of course, the man next to me was the very first investigator in that house in 1973.
Oh, yeah.
Four. Was it four?
It was three.
It was three.
Yeah.
And somebody that, of course, has no importance beside being there, knowing Corey and Jen, and have investigated the spot with Carl himself and a few others. But it's kind of like a little niche right here,
Well, we're all associated with somebody. He was mentioning, Elise being a historian. Elise has been conducting research on the house for the past year and about a year and a half now.
Yeah.
So she's acquainted with it. And Elise has brought out, she's uncloaked some of the mystique of the Conjuring house, and that there are rumors and stories. There's mythology about the Conjuring house that, people want to believe in, this dark, foreboding history.
Yeah, I know.
All of that can be siphoned out, though. You didn't have a bad feeling there, Nick. You didn't feel like,
No, I didn't. I didn't feel anything negative or sinister in that fashion. A lot of I've been to some really sinister locations all over the world, like prisons and mental asylums and stuff that has a dark past that's historically documented, and you just know when you walk into a location after doing it for so long, it's just like anybody, right? You walk up to people, and if we're talking, you feel that negative person walk up. You just sense that negativity that's lingering within the environment. And typically when I walk around, I'll get that sense of negativity or positive, or you just kind of feel uneasy, or that energy that's just unexplainable, where you just don't know how it makes you feel, So I felt like this location, it was almost like something was lurking there, in the shadows, but didn't want itself to be known, but it wanted to be heard, but just didn't want to be seen, by others. I don't know. That's how I took it. And just documenting the voices, hearing intelligent responses, hearing disembodied voices, hearing footsteps, something moving around upstairs, and then feeling that feeling kind of in the seance room right there, and what we all went through. I feel like it wants to be heard, whatever it is on the other side. Whoever's communicating is saying something and talking about the past in some form or way of what happened there, and trying to explain, what's going on, but without like saying everything. I don't know. It's very strange. It's a strange place. Just the land alone. I feel like the land is so ancient that it holds such energy that it lingers into the house now. And I think the house has this inhabiting entity or this form that has really moved into that whole area. But I never once felt negative. I never once felt threatened, or I don't know, my own psyche or mind, body, spirit was going to feel you know, like something bad was going to happen. I think it's also, I'm in a point in my life where I'm super grounded and very positive in that sense. And I go into every place respectfully. And, you know, I always look at it as walking into anybody's house where you just have that respect and you just know that there's others that live there or that are living there or still lingering there. Those emotions, that energy, everything before and now kind of coincides together in this kind of weird universe we live in. And I feel like I represent that, I don't know, that force where I feel like if you don't let the intent of something harming you or that negativity overtaking your own life and your own psyche and stuff like that, I feel like being grounded in that sense, moving through the darkness, you know, as an investigator or whatever, trying to get to the real factual or the real causes of certain things, just to understand it. So I feel like in a safe place, you know, when I'm going into these locations. So maybe I'm just in a different space in my mind and stuff as I'm moving to location to location. But yeah, this location it didn't frighten me. It didn't scare me, and I didn't feel anything negative in that sense. I just felt like there's something uneasy there that just is ripple affected the environment. It's unbalanced in a weird way. Does that make sense?
It does to me. I think it has a lot to do with the environment, the topography, the mineral content, and in the earth. You know, a variety of factors. The fact that the house has been there for nearly 300 years and has had a long time to absorb memory. And I think we're in agreement that it's not so much that the house is haunted, that the house is the haunting.
Right.
The house becomes something of an entity in itself.
Yeah, definitely. I'd have to agree too. You know, quite a few times I've been there. You know,
Yeah.
Carl and I, being demonologists, have diagnosed and assessed cases,
Evaluated
cases extensively from the East Coast to the West Coast, either in person or through consultation. And, you know, we always hear of certain places being infested by this demonic force or this evil entity. And, you know, Conjuring being one of them, more so due to the entertainment aspects of it. But, you know, I grew up hearing the story from Carl. You know, I've known Carl for 10 years before it was even very well known outside, of course, literature like The Demonologist and Paranormal Realities by Keith Johnson. Right. I've heard it from Carl. So, you know, everybody has their preconceived notion of going into the house is going to be evil because they've seen the movie.
It's that mystique that pervades the house,
but it's really not. It's really a homey. It's a place that you can feel nurtured. And yes, of course, if you don't expect it to be haunted and you hear stuff, then there's going to
be a little unsettling.
Yeah, it's going to startle you. But no, it's definitely a peaceful home, and I definitely don't think that our topic tonight, what it is like to deal with the demon, will have anything to do with that house, fortunately.
Yeah, it's an interesting place, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. You nailed it, Carl. It's an interesting place. It really is. It's fascinating. Right when I walked on the property, it's just, I don't know, it's that weird energy.
Oh, my word. The same thing I felt in August 1973. As soon as our team pulled up in the driveway, I felt, whoa, something's here. This is
exactly
a suggestion. I'm feeling something here.
Yeah. I think there's something that's not unearthed. I think something is lingering that's unmarked. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's just that uneasiness that you get when you're walking around because you don't know where all the puzzle pieces lie, and you're looking for that one puzzle piece to be like, this puzzle isn't complete. Where is this puzzle piece? Did it fall on the ground? Did it fall over here? Is it under the table? You know, and you're looking for it, and you're trying to place that puzzle piece to make it whole again, is what I feel. And it's just a location that just has so much mystery, you know? And you're right. Like, it's been so tarnished with the history at that location. Oh my gosh. It's just been like legend after legend and mystery after mystery. It's not the truth of what the place was. And I think the facts, once you start digging up, we did a tremendous amount of research in history. I really wanted to know all the facts. You know, I didn't want to just be hearsay or the legends look, I love the Conjuring film. It was cool. But I mean, come on, you know what I mean? There's no flying witch, you know, going crazy in that house. So it's just one of those things. But I also haven't lived there long enough too, like Corey and Jen have. So, you know, who knows? Maybe I go back another time and I experience that.
Corey and Jen have been there for a year and a half, and the Perrin family, they were there for 10 years.
Yep. Yeah.
You know the house.
Yeah.
And you said you did some research. I'm sure you found what I found, that it's a whole bunch of little bits of stories that were put together into one giant, old
Yeah.
lady hanging herself in the barn, when there were actually three women named Mrs. John Arnold. And it's very, very hard to prove that somebody was just a normal, everyday, God-fearing woman, because nobody wrote about women back then. You can't find anything written that just says, she didn't kill babies. She was just a normal person. So it's
Here's
really
the
hard to do
interesting
the
part I've
research
been
to
looking
figure
at as
that
an
out.
investigator now. I've been looking at things differently. The perspective I feel has changed for me over the years. It used to be when I was really young, in my 20s or whatever, I used to go in and be like, all right, where's the ghost? Like all that immature stuff that we do when we're unaware and don't fully understand stuff. And, walking around with the EMF detectors and whatever, and it's just like things in my mind and perception have changed dramatically. And now I'm looking at things like what happens if we're going into a location like this house. Let's just specifically talk about this house. And you have 300 years of history, families coming through there, people living there, all the emotions. They don't have to die and pass away in the house or something tragic to happen, right? I think that intensifies an environment or intensifies whatever's going on there. But like, think about it. If time doesn't exist in this formula, like notion that we think, right, as human beings, as we evolve and we grow older and we create time and we pass away in these bodies that we're living in. But what happens if the people that are there right now in the past, that is happening in the past right now, and their energies of emotions, getting into fights, arguing, being sad, having all this happy emotions, whatever. What happens if we're feeling that in real time while we're there at the same time, and they're crossing over, bleeding through to each other in this reality that we're living in two separate realities? What happens if the universe can bleed through some of those emotions and we're actually experiencing that at the same time? They think we're ghosts, I think they're ghosts, or vice versa, or we're defining things and putting stuff in boxes and labels and stuff like that. And that's actually kind of what we're experiencing. I've been studying that a lot lately, and I feel like it's a possible reality of what could be occurring. So I just been kind of going down the rabbit hole a little bit with that lately, which is interesting.
That's interesting. I don't want to steal kind of from Carl's thunder, because he was at that point of assessing it.
Yeah,
but,
thunder away. This is my line of conversation.
in that same topic with string theory and all that. And
when you get into quantum mechanics, quantum physics.
But Carolyn Perrin, when she was living in that house, experienced that in that exact house, in that room that you held. I'm pretty sure it was the seance.
It was
right?
the seance room. Yeah.
So
it used to be,
she was the intruder to these apparitions or forms that were there in front of her in their time period, which is interesting. She felt like she was the intruder. They looked at her as she was the intruder, which always fascinates me about that house, because to me that could be like a time slip. Like, did she go into their reality? There's something bleed through where, like you say, plates.
I'm absolutely convinced that she saw that, because Mrs. Perrin described coming into that what's now a parlor room. She saw two men seated at a table, and they had pewter tankards. They were dressed in vintage clothing. So I think, and they looked at her. You talk about a residual and atmospheric quantum that's not aware of us. These two individuals looked at her with astonishment, and she looked at them. She was the apparition to them. She was a ghost, and they were ghosts to her. So you had that crossover. It's like reality is projected from plates, if you buy into the holographic universe theory.
Yep.
So we're all perceived as three dimensions because that's how we're projected, and that's what we understand. But we're really just projected on it. And sometimes these plates of reality that contain reality, they bisect, just like as Nick was saying. You get a crossover, bleed through.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
Audio tapes, you have a bleed through there.
Exactly, because if you look at it, I mean, we don't see the air that we breathe. We don't see oxygen, but we know it's all around us because we're alive and we need that to survive, right? And we don't see the billions of neutrinos are moving through us right now as we're talking. There's billions of neutrinos moving through us.
He said neutrinos. Yeah. I bet he likes ions too.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at stuff like dark matter, look at the wormholes, look at everything around us, the infinity of space that we can't even comprehend right now, that we're talking about different universes beyond our universes. When you start dissecting stuff and we start realizing that we not only, totally different subject, but when we start looking at space, right? Space and time, and beyond space and time, even out farther than we can actually see or comprehend, with the biggest telescopes, the smartest scientists, You try to dissect Tesla or Einstein or all these great people who have really tried to tap into otherworldly stuff like we're talking about. You know, I think life in general isn't supposed to be completely figured out, because we need to go through life as an experience, as human beings, to evolve, right, to something greater. And I really believe the energy and the information we're collecting in these conscious thoughts, the most powerful thing in the world is up here in the brain. But it's how you ripple affect this universe as a human being to leave that positive, hopefully a positive impact, and not so much negative. But there's good and bad people in this world, and both pass away and do good and evil things. So it's like all of that ripple affects the universe, you know. And I feel like a lot of that transcends and lingers and positions itself and bleeds through into different times. And you feel it too when you walk into locations. You feel those emotions. You feel maybe that person's alive now, but we don't know. We just cross through each other, and that's kind of the universe letting you know and aware that we're just lingering on each other. I don't know. It's just things are just stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked on top of each other as we just grow older in reality. So it's just so bizarre, this world we live in.
I'm glad you said that the human mind is one of the most fascinating, most powerful.
Yeah.
People don't realize.
Well, from our perspective, it's the most powerful thing in the universe.
If you take, like, I remember that you were like, oh, that's not true. I was a little off, but if we took one galaxy away, we'd have more neurons on our brain than stars in the universe. If we took one galaxy away, that's crazy to think.
Yeah.
It just shows you what it's capable of. So,
well, our galaxy, they speculate somewhere between 250 and 400 billion stars. That's a big disparity. But, I mean, that's our galaxy, and ours is a pretty much average spiral galaxy. We got a lot of neurons here. I hope we're using them.
Oh, yeah. I think
before you guys blast off into space, would you like to take a few questions?
Sometimes I want to. Sometimes I want to go.
Oh God!
Talking to the three of us guys too,
yeah. I mean, once you go down that rabbit hole, you keep
I get caught up in it myself.
I mean, you have to, but this is what the greatest part about being human is right here. Communication to one another. And I think we forget about that through our journey, right? We forget about how we can communicate and share experiences, share information, be positive, be like an individual who's going to rise up and do something great in this world. And I think we lose track of that from like our everyday work schedule or whatever is going to be a conflict with us, and whatever you're going through in a relationship or whatever the heck it is, there's always something that's distracting you from the bigger picture.
Yes.
But what's the bigger picture in your life? That's for you to figure out. But right. I always say, make an impact for something better. Life is short.
Yeah. And it's kind of a paradox that you have to make the time to be with yourself quietly to make a big impact on the outside. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that. All right.
I know we only have a short period of time. I know we want to get some questions, but I think we need to get at the topic at hand. You want to rope that in? You want to rope that topic in so Nick can answer it properly?
Lasso that topic and bring it in.
Yeah.
Wait, am I lassoing it?
Which topic?
What is the topic at hand, Elise?
What are we talking about tonight?
Demons. It's demons, right. Isn't it always demons?
Yeah. So before we ask you the question, Nick and Carl, I know you want to go ahead, but I know I wanted to show you something that you shared me. So what it is like to deal with a demon. So per Carl in one of his cases, this is what a demon looks like.
That's, to the best of my knowledge, that is the photograph of a demonic visage. And it was
captured on a small screen. You'll have to squint and you'll be able to see it.
Yeah, if you stand back from it, you'll get more detail. The image is a little distorted.
Yeah, no, I see it. Where was this taken? Where was that taken?
Taken in a house in Coventry, Rhode Island, on a night that the family was driven out of their house. And when I say family, I mean mother, father, and 7 children driven out of their house. They had to go stay with her sister, the aunts and uncles, for a few days. And that was not the only time. It was not the first time they were driven out of their house. This is one of the most severe times they had to leave and stay away for a few days. And actually, they ended up relinquishing the house. They had to move out. They were driven out because of this thing that was in there. I don't know. Inconclusive. Inconclusive is good because it means we can't totally discount it. But to the best of my knowledge and my understanding, my familiarity with that situation, that is the face of a demon. We're looking into a hellish visage. Now that's, you want to show it again?
One more time.
Yeah, you know what's strange when I look at it and you focus and I sit back a little, my eyes adjust and I lock eyes with it. I don't know what it is, but just looking at the picture, not being there or anything like that, or not knowing what's going on in this picture, it makes me dizzy.
It's a good, yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, and it's transparent. There's opacity to it, so you can see through it as well, which is interesting.
Yeah. We're like something was happening and you just snapped that picture or something?
I did not. The homeowner did, but I was in daily contact with these people and had been over there. Oh, I was convinced the paranormal phenomenon, the manifestations there were genuine. So it was behaving like a poltergeist. Objects, crockery was being thrown around while we, the investigative team, was there, and it had an aim, a trajectory to it. Sugar bowl went against the post, would go against the picture, would always hit something without, just being askew. It had a target every time when an object would strike. My chair with me in it was pulled all the way back across the floor, and a dinner plate appeared over my head. These are like two different occasions. Yeah. Dinner plate appeared over my head and smashed in front of me. Turned out it had come from the lady's dishwasher, which was 3 rooms away. All kinds of strange stuff happening while we were there to observe it. But I was not there. I got the call from Tony, the homeowner, and he called me at about 2:30 in the morning. I didn't know what to do with it for him. I said, look, I'll come over. It'll be about half an hour, but I'll come over if you want. And he said, oh, we got it. And then he called me back. We got to get out of here now. We got to get out. And I heard screaming I heard her screaming, his wife screaming. And they just had to leave. He had left his camera on a table at the bottom of the stairwell. He knew he had some evidence, or what he felt was evidence on that camera. So he came back into the house before they took off, retrieved his camera. When he did, standing almost like in victory, triumphant, standing at the top of the stairwell was that figure. It was the full figure, a man-like thing, and he took the picture, and that's what came, not knowing if there any image would be imprinted in his photograph, and that's what came out.
That's weird.
And I actually saw that entity myself, which is rare, very rare to see something, like, empirically see it. Yeah. And I was seated at the kitchen table. We were discussing the case, and I happened to look over, and there's that thing looking at me. It was a little more human-like than what you see in that photograph, but looking right at me. It's solid looking, and then it was suddenly gone. Now maybe I'd be more convincing if I was, but I'm not the type to go, holy smokes, guys, it's something. I just waited till the break in the conversation, and I said, maybe they'll believe me, maybe they won't, but I said, I just saw it. I saw it over in that corner in the hallway, which was a center of activity. Saw it looking at me. I was almost flattered, singled me out. On another occasion, a kitchen knife, a dinner knife, flew down the hallway. I just happened to turn to see it. It wasn't spinning.
Yeah.
Came in. I was holding a thermograph, remote thermal gauge. It hit the instrument I was holding, not my hand, but the thermal gauge, and dropped to the floor. And I showed it to Tina, the lady of the house, and she said, "Oh my God, that's not one of my knives. I don't know where that came from." And they had children around, but the children weren't there that day. And anyway, you couldn't throw that and have it go like down the hallway like that. So that's just scratching the surface of things that were going on there. But I would not. It was successful in the sense that it was a fascinating case and verification of paranormal PK force. But the family ultimately was driven out of their house, so we didn't save them from moving.
Right. Yeah, it's strange when you come across cases like that. Yeah, I mean.
So Nick, the question is, what is it to deal with the demon? You have, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, like my perception is so interesting on like demons and stuff. Like sometimes I consider, we were joking about this before we started. Sometimes I consider people demons.
That's what demonized.
I've met some people that I was like, man, they are not themselves, And I do think that people can be overtaken by something else. Like I've met people where, I've known them for years, and then all of a sudden they change and they're just completely something else. I'm like, who are you? There's something else evil inside you. You know what I mean? And I've met people like that. that I've never can figure out. And I don't know if it's just like a psychology type thing. I mean, like, look, you can get into the psychology of it. You can get into the intent of people. There's a lot of emotions that people linger over certain situations. Um, there's a lot of things you have to look at, I think, in the scope of things as a human being. So when you go to locations, I think in doing it for so long that yes, I do believe that something can grow so powerful that it can transform into what it wants, meaning an entity far greater than what we can comprehend just by saying, oh, this is Jim who passed away here, and this is the spirit of Jim, or this is, I don't know, grandmother that was once living here, or whatever you want to try to like claim what the haunting is. I think there's a positive and a negative. I'm a big believer in positive and negative. That's a real thing. We all give off energy, kinetic energy when we move. And I think positive and negative people die. And I think that lingers. But I've experienced where at locations over times, I investigated a new Bobby Mackey's is a perfect example. I investigated that for over a decade. And at first, I thought it was evil and sinister. I didn't know what it was, And then what I realized over the decade of investigating for this new series I just came out with called Deathwalker, I realized that the location has manifested something before the location was there, and over time, it's changing and manifesting into something completely different. And it has changed into something that's like a mirror image of yourself. So if you go into the location and you're like, oh, there's something evil here, there's something negative and stuff, it's going to mirror that right back at you fivefold in a sense, and give you all that rage and anger and manifest as something nasty and evil and everything. And it really tries to get under your skin to feed off of that energy. So it's tricky, right? Because we go into these locations and we try to define what it is. But sometimes I always say, even when I'm like having direct communication through like the Geoport or some audio device, and I have to stop myself at times and go, do I actually know who I'm actually speaking to? It's like talking to a stranger on the old telephones and just prank calling people and saying, hey, it's me, Nick. How's it going over there? Who? You know what I mean? It's like, that's the scary part about, I think, what we do sometimes is we truly don't know what we're dealing with, so I do agree that there's something of what we want to call a demonic nature, or like demonic, I don't know, entity or something far greater evil or negative, because I've experienced negative things at locations that really made me nervous, man. Like, I'm pretty grounded, but it's really made me nervous at times where I didn't feel comfortable at all. And if I don't, like, it takes a lot to scare me. I've slept in morgues for the whole night on permanent lockdown in some of the creepiest, most bizarre locations in the world. I've lived at locations for 72 hours. I mean, I pretty much have put myself in vulnerable states to see. Some I felt like lingered after a while. The energy lingers with you. It feels like you feel dirty, like a bad camping trip after, where the energy will linger with you. But there's been times where I felt really uncomfortable, like something's not right here. Something isn't it's unnatural, I guess is the best word. It's not natural of what the energy should be like. And it feels just so off, where you just feel like your own energy is being divided into something more negative. And I feel like that at times could possibly be with what you guys are talking about. And you probably dealt with it a lot more than I have, obviously. So that's kind of my perception on it, just from my personal experiences. I did have an experience once, though, at the Moon River Brewery Company, where I was really young and I was open to possibilities. And I don't know exactly what it was. I don't think it was demonic in nature. I think it was just something negative. And it overtook my psyche. I kind of zoned out and I blacked out for a second. And I closed my eyes and I was so like just vulnerable that I felt like it moved in through behind my spine and channeling through my eyes or something, and I blacked out, and I was just like there, and all I heard were these voices in my head saying, kill him, kill him, kill him. And at the same time, I think on our camera was documented the shadow just lifting off my back, and a voice on the recorder that was captured at the same time. And I'll never forget that, because I used to, I love the movie The Exorcist, and I'm a horror fanatic, so I watched all those films, and I used to say, oh, nothing can overtake me and all that stuff. But after that experience, I think I started looking at things a lot differently about the possibilities, the one thing I think makes me nervous is the possibility of something being able to overtake your own psyche, your mind, your body, and control you in that sense is very frightening, and I think somebody who's weak and vulnerable and not aware and grounded can allow that to happen. And I think that's kind of what you guys are talking about. That's a scary thing to me, and I looked at The Exorcist differently after that. It actually, as I got older, The Exorcist film actually was like, oh, that's on my top list of probably being my scary movie, because it's so real on how they do it. Obviously theatrics and stuff like that are cool, but I don't know. That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought I'm glad you brought up Bobby Mackey's, because I've been there numerous times, and of course, feel that Carl and I are specifically, I always laugh when I go to a place and say, I've stood in front of, Carl has as well, stood in front of people that have, psychologically been assessed, and they couldn't not determine these people to have a disorder to replicate why
they weren't diagnosed as having schizophrenia or anything like overt.
Yeah. So I've been in front of people that could be claimed as truly demonically possessed in that nature of what we know as of right now within science and medicine. So, but in that form of nature, going to Bobby Mackey's and some of these places, like I always kind of get a giggle, because I'm like, I don't get that feeling as I have in a true demonic situation, like where once you hit that ground, you get the fight or flight, your body wants you to leave. And you said something perfectly great, where you said it mirrors you. Yeah. You thought had ideology called laws of attraction. Yeah. And if you go in there with a positive mindset, the positivity will probably reflect back to you. There's going to be some negative things that
which ties back to the Conjuring house. There's some people that like, some people that wants to spit out the house that you get that feeling. And it's usually people with a good attitude who feel like I get that eerie sense of being watched. But I don't want to leave here. It's nice and homey.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Bobby Mackey's, right? Because way back in the day when I first went there, I never necessarily claimed it was demonic. I think it was obviously the other guys I was with, but I felt like there was something negative. But I feel like it was mirroring what we were putting out, feeding off that fear, feeding off like what I was just talking about. And over time, I've been back so many times after, and I made a mistake too, which was broadcasted obviously on TV. And I think that's another problem, is a lot of TV shows, they play up the demonic nature. They overplay, sensationalize it, to the point where it's like, everything's a demon, run for your life. Hell's opening up and the world is collapsing. And I don't believe it's like that at all. I don't believe everything is demonically possessed or whatever. But I think that a lot of locations hold a lot of trauma, a lot of energy. And you got to think about locations like Bobby Mackey's, where people are going in there and thousands of people are going in there from all over the world, putting out, there's something evil here. There's something bad here. Can you imagine saying that 1,000 times over and over and over again in an environment? It's going to change the environment. Like regardless, I mean, there's studies done on it. People can change the environments in places. And I think over a decade of that happening at Bobby Mackey's, that has transformed this energy that was once there as this kind of this manifestation of whatever it was that's mirroring things back and forth. And it's taken all that energy, all that intent and all that stuff. And it's building up and creating and turning into something else, which could be evil in nature. Like we can put thought form energy out there into environments, and we can produce other things like that, which is really scary.
It sounds like you're talking about a synthesized demon.
Yeah.
Like terminology.
Or like a topa in a sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Next to, we can talk about it now because we talked about it on air, but Tim Shaw, Carl, and myself, and of course Elise, and other people that, Tim invite, we are going to do a modern day Phillips experiment.
Oh, awesome.
Which is in the same form of nature. If you put somebody to believe that there's something evil there and they put enough consciousness into it, they could maybe create evil there. So, Phillips' experiment wasn't based on that nature, of course, but it's in the same intent. If you put somebody in a room and you say, there's somebody named Philip that died from this way, that way, and he was related to this person, you create a little story with them, and you have that person believe it over and over again, and you attempt communication.
It's kind of like metaphysical fishing. We don't know quite what we're going to get, but are we producing this thing, this conscious quasi-consciousness, or are we drawing on something and pulling it in, or is it both factors melding?
Yeah, there's a great film that I actually felt was very like close to real. Exorcism of Emily Rose. Obviously, the case of Emily Rose. I mean, that's probably one of the scariest tapes I've ever heard personally. You know, the tape that you can hear of her possession state. But
Yeah.
I think that's a misconception too. People think like, you know, going into like channeling or losing themselves or stuff like that, they're like suddenly like that person's possessed.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of a sudden they're just possessed.
Yeah.
And I think there's a huge misconception on that, because you guys know like how it works. It's like form of depression, form of like losing yourself, and you know all the steps that it goes through, and then you have to go through the steps with how everything is conducted. And I feel like movies and TV shows and everything else has really kind of overkilled what the beliefs and really how things are done, you know. And it's all about fear. It's all about fear, I think, with a lot of this stuff. You know, look, I love a good horror movie. I love a good story. I like narratives. I like history. But it's also, I'm a realist, you know, like your friend over there, a realist. I'm a logical thinker. I like to experience it for myself to fully understand it, because that's a part of life. We have to experience things. But I'm also not about evil, like really going into the evil and really searching out, you know, demons, and this is what I want to be that demon hunter. Like, it's just, I don't know, I think people, once you really experience something far greater than when you can comprehend, it's far more evil, I don't think you're going to want to be going to look for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the picture you showed me, man, like once you experience something like that, are you really going to want to go and face that? Like, you want that lingering with you, you know?
Yeah.
I'm all about going the scariest, most messed up haunted locations in the world. Put me in it. I want to discover stuff. I want to discover new things in our world. But I definitely don't want lingering negative energy. I've had enough negative energy in my lifetime. I don't want any more negative energy, you know?
And to throw a quick thing in for people that are listening, so Exorcism of Emily Rose is based on the true accounts of Annalise McKell, which actually got exorcisms banned in Germany until early 2000s, and then another exorcism happened in Germany, and then they got banned again after that death.
So sometimes go wrong.
Yes, they do.
Those are the ones we hear about.
So, not to cut it short, I know you said you had till 8:45 tonight, Nick. I'm pretty sure. Is that still correct?
Yeah. We can go a couple more minutes. That's cool. Yeah. No, I love talking to you guys.
To give you time, you said you have a new series out, and you know, for people that are watching, of course, we can get into a little bit more discussion until you have to leave, but so you can plug yourself before you have to get off. What are some of the things you're getting involved with right now? What are you involved with? And
curious about your new ventures.
Yeah, your new ventures and what you have going on.
Yeah, it's been a weird journey. You know, I think through life, at an early age, I had a near-death experience at age 8. I fell from a tree, ripped open my arm, and just kind of the journey has led me on this weird quest to understand what else is out there. I was that kid at 13 that would look up at space and say, there has to be other life form, aliens or higher intelligence or extraterrestrials and UFOs. I was really big into that when I was a kid. And then going through this journey, it's like, it's interesting when I created Ghost Adventures, just bringing the guys together and then going out there to see if ghosts existed. You know, it's kind of like the fascination of that. And each stepping stone through life, I'm just like, man, I want to push it forward. I want to learn. I want to discover. I'm like all about passion. Everything I go after is all passion for me. And, you know, that's what I look at foremost is what's the next thing? What's the next step? How can I, like I was talking about, how can I ripple effect this for a better, this world? So after I did that, Paranormal Lockdown was like, all right, I'm going to live at locations now, which sounded like a great idea at first. But after I started doing it for 5 years, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm disintegrating my skin off my body just because living at locations, man, it's like the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life. Like you're up for 72 hours. Well, you're up for 68 hours out of the 72 hours living on like some of the worst conditions, but discovered some amazing stuff I never have seen, experienced, and documented. So that was amazing. And after that, I just want to create conversations again about the unknown. not to go out to prove or disprove or this and that. I think it's just about theories, ideas, a different perspective, thinking outside the box as a human being to create discussions about, what are the other possibilities that we're missing rather than just going in a location and doing experiments and document stuff. I think it's more about exploring the journey of life and just talking about the unexplainable on every avenue and bringing it all together as one so we can collectively, as a forefront moving forward in life, try to just analyze things a little bit differently, like about time, space. Are we dealing with a ghost, or are we dealing with somebody from the past that's present and we're in the present? Are we dealing with something after an investigation for going into for over a decade? Is it more of a thought form entity? Or are we dealing something with a secret, society that has so much knowledge of energy and stuff, where there's ghostly apparitions and shadow figures and UFO encounters and stuff like that? And that's basically what this new series has brought me to. Deathwalker was basically me, living person walking amongst the dead, is basically what it is. And I'm really excited about it because I think people are going to be fascinated. It's going to create conversations. Even if you believe in the paranormal, don't believe in the paranormal, have a love for history, or just like to kind of go down that wormhole for a second and just think outside the box about theories and ideas. And that's really what this whole new series is. And I'm super excited. We just announced it, the small release right now on VIDI SPACE, and then it's going to international, worldwide right now, actually. So we're going to be announcing really soon where everybody can see it in the world. So I'm really excited about it because for once it feels right. It feels like it's one of the most genuine things I've ever done, and it's cool because it's, we did it on our own and it's independent and it's away from like kind of the big cable networks and stuff, which I really like. No politics, no other excessive executive producers try to say this and that. So I'm really excited about it.
Oh, what's kind of happening here? Oh, sorry.
Got to showcase all of us.
Yeah, yes. But no, definitely, that's awesome. I'm always interested in what you do, Nick. I think starting, you said like you had experiences at 13. I got involved at 15. Carl, very early as well, 17, 16 years old, and you lived in a haunted house.
I lived in a haunted house. So that actually began when I was like 9.
Yeah, so it's it's interesting to hear where you have started and where you are going now, because the story of how you interpret yourself as an investigator, the things that you kind of decipher through starting and then to where you're at now, it changes.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting to see your journey, of course, because, I was that kid that started young and also watching Ghost Adventures and Paranormal Lockdown, Ghost of Shepherdstown, and a lot of these other shows that you've been a part of that have added to the paranormal phenomenon.
Yeah, those were formative to you.
Yeah,
they are to me too.
Well, they are, because it brings the history, brings the places out that is needed to be known to society in this day. So
yeah,
I definitely look forward to seeing your new project. I know Carl and Elise as well, probably too. And it's hopefully, of course, you come across nothing demonic or evil, but if you do know 2 demonologists.
Yeah, I'll know who to call. That's right. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, though, is we should all come together and work together. And it just like we did at the Conjuring live 3-day event, I think it was so awesome to do that because we had so many people coming in and out with different perspectives on things, different backgrounds, different theories, ideas, equipment, experiments. And I feel like that's what it should be about. None of this like dividing or I'm over here with this group, so I can't do that with you. I don't know. I'm at the point in my life where I'm getting older. Maybe I'm just like, let's all work together. Let's all do something where we can discover something great together. I love talking to people with different experiences. That's the only way I can learn. I can learn from us talking about shared experiences and what I've been through and what I know, because I don't wake up in anybody else's shoes every day. So all we can do is just help one another and just really be supportive in that nature and just keep pushing it forward, because that's the only way we're going to be discovering something great. So yeah, I really enjoy it, and I love a good adventure. You never know where I'm going to end up in a haunted location, so it's always fun.
All right.
Well, you know what comes to mind is an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and the older Mr. Spock, who's his Vulcan lifespan, he's still alive in that time, and these people haven't seen him for some time, and he's campaigning for an alliance between the Romulans and the Vulcans, that they will again unite and cooperate, and he has a coalition with him working toward this. And towards the end of the show, he says to Captain Jean-Luc Picard, I'm tying this into the paranormal unity, Spock says, oh, it will not be achieved in my lifetime, and perhaps not in theirs, but it will be achieved.
Yep.
That was one of the most profound lines of dialogue I've ever heard in a Star Trek episode.
And it's so true too, though, because all you can do is try. I mean, we're all human, you know? I mean, once you strip all this away from us, all the materialistic things that we have, we're just back to how we were born into this world, naked in this body with whatever was given to us. And the thing is life is short in these human bodies that we have. But I think that in order to evolve as a human being, you have to be open to the possibilities of something far greater than what we can comprehend right now, because we only use a certain percentage of our brain. So that leaves so much more to explore outside the realm of what we perceive right now in this kind of 2D world that all we can see is right here. But what else is beyond that? The oxygen we breathe, the outer space that we can travel to, the energy that's in this body, the conscious thoughts that develop in our brain through time. And then, where's it go? Where's that energy? Can't be destroyed. Where's the energy go? Where's the conscious thought go? Where's the electricity? Where's all these memories and these moments and all this stuff? It's all information for something greater. And I think if we can evolve into something great and be able to wake up every day, look ourselves in the mirror, have no regrets when it's our time to pass away, whenever that time is near, then I feel like that's being whole. That's like the moment, you're so content with life that there's not going to be coming back. There's no that reincarnation. There's no like, oh, I have all these regrets. I have all this baggage. I have all these things. There's none of that. You let go, you release, just float, man. Just float into outer space and just go with it, whatever that energetic form is that you want to become, whatever your beliefs are, whatever the higher power is, wherever you want to go after that, you just go with it. And I feel like that's the most empowering moment I think any of us will ever experience, is that transition to that other side.
I hope some of us get to share that with someone else before we, cross the threshold of no return.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the objective of what we have to do in this lifetime, is just give a glimpse into that other side and give hope. I mean, that's all we kind of have sometimes is hope, right?
Yes.
Yes.
The final resolution.
Well, you said Star Trek, Star Wars: A New Hope.
Yeah.
Star Wars: A New Hope. That's it. There you go.
I could kind of see that this was going to where we wouldn't really have time to take questions and field questions because we had a lot of ground to cover.
Yeah, but
we got some points across and talk about New Horizons.
Well, while we have Nick on, and of course, his followers, because they might be interested as well. Not to siphon from your followers, Nick, but
take them.
We will have a part 2 to what it is like to deal with the demon. Of course,
there's so much to talk about.
We'll expound a little bit more of what we've dealt with, but
it's basically why we have Duo Daemonologie.
Yeah. But I think part 2 will be interesting for a lot of people too. Is we are going to be taking people's stories of what they felt like they dealt with the demon. So this is where, if you are listening, people, demonology.org, Duo Daemonologie @gmail.com. Of course, Mama Elise can go over more of the ways to contact us and submit your story. But you can submit your story of what it was like for you to deal with the demon. And we'll take 2 of the best stories and we'll bring you online to our StreamYard. And we will let you tell your story. And then Carl and I will listen to it. And we will not necessarily dissect it in a bad way, but we will maybe prove to you that in some form or fashion, through just dialect, that if you were actually dealing with a demon, or it was maybe something misunderstood. So if you have any questions, you can submit them that way, of course, as well.
Yeah, so if you had what you believe to be an encounter with the demonic realm, then that's what we're looking for. And we don't anticipate a heck of a lot of feedback on that. Maybe there will be, but it's rare when somebody has a true encounter with the demonic realm or something that really suggests that. And the late Ed Warren said that once someone has an encounter with the demonic realm, they are forever marked for the rest of their lives. They're marked because the demon recognizes that, And I think I know what he was trying to say.
I feel that is true. Even though I don't think it's something that
doesn't mean you're going to be harassed necessarily for the rest of your life, but you're recognized.
Well, I think there's definitely some pressure. It doesn't say to make us to feel important compared to other people. I think everybody feels pressure, but there are certain things that we feel pressure on, especially dealing with people, even though that is our field, like a psychologist or a doctor. When we deal with people, it becomes a part of us. It becomes a part of who we are. So it adds or detracts from our life. And
it does. We do hear very interesting comments and questions. Also, if you're standing in line in a supermarket, you mention you're a demonologist, suddenly you have all this social distancing. People get out of your way because they think you're a carrier.
Yes, yes.
Somehow.
Yeah. Don't you feel like we all kind of carry that though?
Yeah.
Our life. It's always that like weird thing that's itching under your skin, like that little the old thing where you got the devil over here, the angel over here, and one's pulling you in different directions, and it's just waiting for you to slip, so he can just like scratch through and be like, take you when you're vulnerable. I feel like we all kind of hold that, and we're human. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone has bad days. Everyone, we all do stupid stuff when we're young and whatnot. Some of us do. I don't know. I'll speak for myself. But it's just one of those things. I feel like it's always itching and waiting. Maybe we crossed paths, we didn't know, but it's always like that kind of underlayering thing that is just waiting to grab a hold of you when you least expect it, right? Does that make sense?
It's there somewhere in our psyches, in the murky recesses of the human mind.
Yeah,
always an influence for what we interpret as good or ill. It's there.
Exactly, and that's a perfect way of describing it, because I feel like it could be the simplest things too. It could be like one day normal things start happening bad, and then you get a flat tire in your car. Then all of a sudden this happens, you lose your job, or something else happens, and then it's like those type of like similarities that like start unfolding like a ripple effect. And then you start realizing there's something worse happening. Why is all these bad things happening? There's no coincidences. I don't really believe in coincidences, but I think things like that happen for a reason, and the strong survive, and I think sometimes we have to just never give up and grab a hold of our own world that we're living through and not let it take a hold of us. So I do think there's something underlining what we perceive. We all look at it differently, but I think that is a real thing, that it really can take over your own, like you're saying, like you're describing, your own psyche and your own mentality.
It's perfect, actually. I think one of the best things people, especially what it is like to deal with a demon, that kind of ties into that whole formula, that whole topic, is not to be a victim.
Yeah.
You have to be strong. You have to be what people call a spiritual warrior. You have to overcome. And if you let it get to you, you let it get to your psyche, you get to allow it to your physicality, then you wither away.
Well, yeah, it's an ongoing struggle, but I had a pivotal moment during an expulsion, a minor form of exorcism. Like, I had to decide right then, am I ever going to be able to come back into this house? Am I ever going to be able to do this again? Because if I leave now, I won't, but do I stay with it? And that turned me around then. Right. But of course, then you got that day-to-day hour struggle, which is infinitely more challenging.
Yeah, I think I agree to that. The very first time in Salem, Massachusetts, I stood in front of this person that went into transient possession, and basically had thrown a kitchen table, and it had missed me. There was eyewitnesses to this, but that is in that moment as like where you had your moment at one point where you wanted to maybe jump out the window or you wanted to get out of there. Was if I leave now, I give it what it wants. But if I leave now, then shame on me as well. So even though your body's telling you get the heck out of there, you need to leave, you have to overpower that, especially if you're in that situation, especially if you're with a family. And it's difficult because it's so oppressive. It really is, that force, that the nature of a home, the equilibrium changes that you have within your body. It's just sickening. You know, it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is weird. Obviously, you guys go into a lot of those cases and stuff like that. For me, I'm going into locations looking to discover stuff. But I have come across just negative, really, really negative, sinister energy that I just, it's so ugly, and you can't comprehend it. Like, you don't understand what's happening, and when you cross through it, or you just know it's lurking or kind of itching at you and stuff like that. I don't know. I just feel like things on that side are very patient because there is no time. For us, everything is so fast paced and wanting to go here or be that or do this, in this world we live in, this reality. So I think that just things are patient. They're just waiting for you to slip up and waiting to attach,
Very true.
Time is on their side.
At least we've come towards our end. Do you
Not on our
Time
side.
is against us.
do you want to introduce the way that people can get in touch with us for part 2, and any final words from you, Elise? I know you haven't spoken much, so of course we would love to hear from you as well if there's anything.
I will just say that I already posted in the chat that you can write to duodaemonologie@gmail.com and tell us your story, and you'll be contacted if they choose you to come online and speak about your experience on our next broadcast, which will not be on the 12th, November 12th, because we have something else going on that night, but it'll be at a later date. So that gives you a little bit of time to put your story together, get it to us via email, or you can write to us. You can contact us directly on Facebook, Instagram.
And next time when we return with this topic, I would like to get the perspective of a realist. What does a realist say about a demon? But we'll save that. Unless you want to extend our show.
We'll save
that. Well, we'll pick that up next time.
That's okay. We'll save that.
All right.
We've all enjoyed listening to you guys talk about
It's
what
not
it's
fun,
like to
people.
deal with a demon.
It's not, like Nick said.
Yeah. That's the thing. It's so glamorized on television and stories and movies, and what guys can attest to once you're in there.
It can
really
be
didn't
life
wanna be
enhancing,
there.
or it can become life warping, depending on how you receive it and at what distance you keep it.
Okay. So think of that. Think of the stories that you have. Please delve in with us.
Yes, please
your
do.
story, and we'd love to hear it. Reach out to us. Nick, thank you for.
Thanks so much, Nick.
Thank you so much for being a guest. Hopefully it's not a year again until I see you.
Yeah, definitely. And next time we cross paths, definitely let's say hi. So yeah, no, it's great talking to all of you, and I love it.
I'll send you a note. Don't worry, I'll get it.
Through the pigeon. Send the pigeon out to me. Yeah, no, always great talking to you. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Sounds good, Nick. Thank you. Do you have any final words? Anything? Any way people can get in touch with you?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. Those are the two that I'm on all the time. But other than that, just wake up every day being happier than the next, and just live life. And don't forget to laugh, have fun. I think we all try to be so serious sometimes. Enjoy, we're living.
We have to be serious.
Enjoy, we're living. Yeah.
I gotta say, you do a good job of that.
I do it too. Yes. No, thank you so much. Honestly, you guys rock.
Thank you.
And thank everyone who tuned in tonight and wrote into the chat and said hello. We couldn't get to every single one of you tonight, but I think you'll agree that it was just worth just sitting and listening to these guys.
Yeah. And maybe we'll take questions next week as well, upon the stories as well. Everybody have a great night.
Good night. Thank you, James. Thank you, Nick and Elise.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Have a good night, everyone.